Namaste, friends, disciples, and devotees. I am still in the US since India is not yet offering visas, and I'm doing my work on Savitri, as always. I had promised you last time to speak on animals, and I will do that in the future very soon. But today I would like to talk to you on the subject of the dark forces and the dark path. So let us begin from Sri Aurobindo. The dark path is there, and there are many who make, like the Christians, a gospel of spiritual suffering. Many hold it to be the unavoidable price of victory. It may be so under certain circumstances, as it has been in so many lives at the beginning, or one may choose to make it so. But then the price has to be paid with resignation, fortitude, or a tenacious resilience. I admit that if born in that way, the attacks of the dark forces or the ordeals they impose have a meaning. After each victory gained over them, there is then a sensible advance. Often they seem to show us the difficulties in ourselves, which we have to overcome, and to say, here you must conquer. But all the same, it is a too dark and difficult way, which nobody should follow, on whom the necessity does not lie. This yoga is a spiritual battle. Its very attempt raises all sorts of adverse forces, and one must be ready to face difficulties, sufferings, reverses of all sorts in a calm, unflinching spirit. No misfortune can come. The adverse forces cannot touch or be victorious unless there is some defect in oneself, some impurity, weakness, or, at the very least, ignorance. One should then seek out this weakness in oneself and correct it. The strongest attitude to take is to regard these things as what they really are: incursions of dark forces from outside, taking advantage of certain openings in the physical mind or the vital part, but not a real part of oneself or spontaneous creation in one's own nature. To create a confusion and darkness in the physical mind, and to throw into it or awake in it mistaken ideas, dark thoughts, false impressions, is a favorite method of these assailants. And if they can get the support of this mind from overconfidence in its own correctness, or the natural tightness of its impressions and inferences, then they can have a field day until the true mind reasserts itself and blows the clouds away. Another device of theirs is to awake some hurt or rankling sense of grievance in the lower vital parts, and keep them hurt or rankling as long as possible. In that case, one has to discover these openings in one's nature and learn to close them permanently to such attacks, or to throw out the intruders at once or as soon as possible. The recurrence is no proof of a fundamental incapacity. If one takes the right inner attitude, it can, and will be overcome. One must have faith in the Master of our life and works, even if for a long time he conceals himself, and then, in his own right time, he will reveal his presence. The mother's consciousness is the divine consciousness, and the light that comes from it is the light of the divine truth. The force that she brings down is the force of the divine truth. One who receives and accepts and lives in the mother's light will begin to see the truth on all the planes, the mental, the vital, the physical. He will reject all that is undivine. The undivine is the falsehood, the ignorance, the error of the dark forces. The undivine is all that is obscure and unwilling to accept the divine truth and its light and force. The undivine, therefore, is all that is unwilling to accept the light and force of the mother. That is why I'm always telling you to keep yourself in contact with the mother and with her light and force, because it is only so that you can come out of the confusion and obscurity and receive the truth that comes from above. Humility is indeed one thing, and depression quite another. The former, a divine movement, and the latter, a very crude expression of the dark forces. If you seek to impose your will upon the divine, it is as if you were calling for a bomb to fall upon you. I do not say that things are bound to happen in this way, but they are very likely to happen if people do not become conscious and strictly vigilant and act in the true spirit of a spiritual seeker. If the psychological atmosphere remains the same as that of the outside world, there can be no sure wall of security against the dark forces that are working out in it, the ordeal of danger, suffering, and destruction entering here. From Nolini Kanta Gupta, you are always an instrument, a mere tool, so long as you are in the unconsciousness. It is when you are conscious that you become an agent. As long as you are unconscious, you are mostly an instrument in the hands of the dark forces. When you become conscious, you are an agent who can act for and act with and act as the gods. That is also the victorious battle waged against the dark forces of ignorance. The goal, the purpose, is the descent and manifestation of the gods here upon earth in human vehicles. Namaste.